Hello, my name's Elizabeth Lank, and I'm one of the associate pastors at Second Presbyterian Church Roanoke. Today's Sunday school lesson for May the 24th marks the final in our series we have called By the Rivers of Babylon, a study on the book of Psalms. Traditionally at Second Pres, we mark the beginning of the summer with a worship service called Picnic Sunday. We worship at Braylock Pavilion with images of the beautiful city below us in the distance and the mountains that surround us. One of the scripture passages we always incorporate into that time of worship is the 121st Psalm. Its words are familiar to many of us. In fact, verse 1 makes up the words for Hollins University's motto, "Lift thine eyes." Since our plans for Picnic Sunday have had to shift this year, I thought it would be appropriate for me to close our Sunday school series with that 121st Psalm. Psalm 121 is called a Psalm of Ascent. In fact, it is part of a section of Psalms, Psalm 120 through Psalm 134, that make up what we call Psalms of Ascent or Psalms of Ascents. The best guess is that these psalms were collected and used in conjunction with a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. For that reason, Psalm 121 is commonly understood as a liturgy of blessing for one about to go on a journey. The structure of the psalm is really elegantly simple. Verses 1 and 2 are a traveler's question and confession, and verses 3 through 8 are a priestly blessing. A traveler's question and confession: I lift my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. The psalm begins with a question to which anyone can relate. Where can I get help? Or, better yet, where can I look for help? As I've shared, many interpreters imagine a traveler about to depart on a journey, perhaps a journey on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem for a festival or really any journey. Such a question is natural, whether a geographic journey through dangerous territory or a lifelong journey through many ups and downs, or a spiritual journey seeking a homecoming to God. Life is full of many dangers. The physical, disease, injury, accident, war, infirmity, natural disasters or pandemic, economic disasters like recession, depression, unemployment, outsourcing, downsizing, debt, theft, or pandemic, or spiritual dangers like doubt, sin, corruption, fundamentalism, extremism, false teaching, or crisis of faith due to pandemic. Therefore, what more natural question to ask than, from where will my help come? The psalmist answers his or her own question with a confession of faith. My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. Modern translations obscure the poetic and chiastic structure of the sentence. The word, my help, is the last word of verse 1 and the first word of verse 2. In this overly literal translation, a hyphen indicates when several English words were used to translate one Hebrew word. I lift my eyes to the hills. From where shall come my help? My help from with Yahweh, maker of heaven and earth. The verse is a chiasm. A, creation, hills. B, whence comes my help. B, my help is from the Lord. A, creation, who made heaven and earth. The psalmist does not look to nature for help. Those hills, after all, might be hiding some danger, some predator. The psalmist's help comes from the very one who made the hills, the heavens and the earth, God. The hills may obscure some threat, but they also, by their very existence, bear witness to the Creator. The rest of the psalm is a blessing. The pronouns switch now from the first person, my and I, to the second person singular, you and your. Let's look at the text together, reading from the Common English Bible translation. Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where will my help come? My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. He will not let your foot be moved. He who keeps you will not slumber. He who keeps Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is your keeper. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all evil. He will keep your life. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. Looking back on my life, it is not hard to see the hand of God at work. That is the beauty of hindsight, is it not? Things appear clearer upon reflection, but in times of uncertainty and discernment, it can be hard to picture God ahead of us, already there where we are going. Imagine a traveler about to depart on a trip, perhaps a pilgrimage to Jerusalem for a festival. Travelers would sing these words from Psalm 121 as they trudged up the steep, dangerous mountain roads to festivals at the temple in Jerusalem. I wonder if Mary and Joseph sang these words as they traveled with the boy Jesus to the temple, or if these words echoed in the disciples' ears as they followed Jesus on the road to Jerusalem for Passover some 20-odd years later. It is interesting, and I think important to note that this short psalm uses some form of the word that means to keep, shamar, 6 times in the course of only 8 verses. The psalmist is confident in God's persistent dependability, but there's also a tenor of anxiety, a fragile joy beneath these words. He is embarking into uncharted territory. After all, there is much to consider when leaving home. Sunstroke and moonstroke were genuine concerns for the people of Israel when traveling long distances along desert byways. Although mention of the moon here may seem odd to us today, it should be remembered that ancient people believed the moon to be a cause of lunacy. Hence, our term lunatic from the Latin word for the moon. In addition, both the sun and the moon were thought to represent deities. Thankfully, verse 7 offers a final summary of God's protection from all evil. Our 21st century Western culture promotes individualism and self-sufficiency. But at some point, we all have to face the reality that we simply cannot be our own gods. If we try to be in complete control, life will remind us otherwise sooner or later. We will, at some point, need to ask for help. There is a blessing given in the moments when we become aware of our own powerlessness. It allows us to live into the truth of our lives and strips away those concerns that are not necessary. It provides footing for our sincerest cry to the Lord, "From where will my help come?" And the immediate reply, "My help comes from the Lord, who made heaven and earth." When we remember the paths that Jesus and his disciples traveled, we can imagine this psalm as a guide. The road they traveled to Jerusalem was a circuitous route. It makes no sense by way of a map. Now, it is possible that Jesus and his disciples were turned around and zigzagged their way to Jerusalem through the gospel stories. But it is much more likely that the journey itself and the people they meet along the way are the point. Is that not the way of life for us? We set goals and we work to get from point A to point B, but things get in the way. The best laid plans are interrupted. Then the psalmist reminds us that the Lord is still with us. The Lord is keeping us. I love the way Jayber Crow puts it. Jayber Crow is the fictional protagonist of Wendell Berry's novel by the same name. Orphaned at the age of 10, Jayber is an ex-pre-ministerial candidate who dropped out of Bible college and found his way back home, and now serves as the town barber, church custodian, and gravedigger. He lives a humble life of introspection as he witnesses his beloved town lose its footing in a world of big business. As he reflects on his journey, he considers in quiet wisdom, if you could do it, I suppose it would be a good idea to live your life in a straight line. But that's not the way I've done it so far. I am a pilgrim, but my pilgrimage has been wandering and unmarked. Often what has looked like a straight line to me has been a circling or a doubling back. The names of many snares and dangers have been made known to me, but I have seen them only in looking back. Often I have not known where I was going until I was already there. I have had my share of desires and goals, but my life has come to me, or I have gone to it, mainly by way of mistakes and surprises. Often I've received better than I deserved. Often my fairest hopes have rested on bad mistakes. I am an ignorant pilgrim, crossing a dark valley, and yet for a long time, looking back, I have been unable to shake off the feeling that I have been led. Indeed, I trust that we are being led. The key word again in this passage is keep. Who is God? God is a keeper. God's identity is to protect, shield, Watch over, guard, keep. God does this like a watchman, keeping guard over a city, or like a bird, shielding its young in the shelter of its wings. What does God promise to do? God promises to keep you, not just on a particular journey, but on the journey of your life. God will guard you as you go on your journey of life and as you return home, as you go out and come in, as you face the dangers of day and night. The list of promises here is not meant to suggest that those who walk in the shelter of God will not face harm or that nothing ill will befall them. The psalmist knows all too well that the wicked are everywhere and that they thrive unjustly. These promises, however, are meant as characteristic promises. These are the sort of things that the Lord does for those who rely on Him. And the words of blessing and promise evoke God's protection and our awareness of it. For this reason, it is common for Jewish families to post Psalm 121 in the delivery room, or on their baby carriages, or in a child's room. I believe that every child of God should give and receive a blessing every day. The words of Psalm 121 make a great blessing. No matter where you are watching this Sunday school lesson, I invite you to take a moment and offer a blessing. Make the sign of the cross on your forehead or on a family member's forehead and say these words. The Lord will keep your going out and your coming in from this time on and forevermore. Claim and celebrate the good news that no matter what comes, God is and always will be our keeper.